What practical measure do you think is needed to create that enabling environment that can promote agricultural productivity, growth, and enhance competitiveness of the agricultural food export?
It's very clear that we need to address standardization. If we don't do that, then we're not going to move very far. One very clear thing is, apart from even the currency, is even what I call anti-money laundering. There are things around knowing your customers, right? Because once the fallout of the Trade Act is that you're going to get more participation. So how do you make sure that the right people are participating and they are not just using this rail as a means to do more unscrupulous things, right? So that brings in KYC. Now, do you want to do KYC every single time? So I'm a producer in Nigeria. I want to export to South Africa. South Africa has to do KYC on me. I want to export the same thing to Kenya. Does Kenya have to do the same KYC with me? That's probably going to be a waste. So we need to start thinking about ways that we can use technology to standardize. And for me, blockchain is a very good place to start. Once I can do KYC for myself one time, that can be reused across different countries. And even down to anti-money laundering, for example. Once a contract has been signed, then it's bounded. And it can't be, well, so far so good. It can't be changed. So technology is one way in which we can address some of the concerns that we've raised, because trying to do it manually or trying to get people to inspect it, which is one of the things that I see us do sometimes, it's not going to work and we can't scale. And scale is coming, so we have to prepare for it.
I know a lot of problems around maybe financial advisory services, or people are not too sure how to access finances to power or reduce a lot of cumbersome processes. So what do you think can be done from the standpoint of maybe advisory or investment?
I think for us to be able to scale up and reduce the challenges of cross-border transactions in Nigeria and across the continent, it's important for us to ensure that we regularly contact appropriate and authorized advisors. If I use Nigeria as an example, you have the Securities and Exchange Commission that has licensed appropriate advisors that you can go onto their website and connect with these people and be able to speak to them, and they'll be able to advise you on how to raise funding. A lot of people complain that they have challenges raising funding for transactions, especially in the agri sector, but it's not always the case. The truth is that perhaps you're going through the wrong process, or we do not have the necessary requirements to allow us to be able to tap into the avalanche of funds that are available in that sector. That's on one side. So get the right advisors and they'll be able to tell you how to access these funds. The second bit, which I think SIKEMI mentioned a bit about, is the differences amongst the requirements across the different countries on the continent. I know in West Africa, for example, there's actually a program to have what we call the West African Capital Markets Integration Committee, which is a scheme to ensure that the capital market requirements across West African countries are similar or they are aligned. If we're able to replicate that across the other trade regions on the continent, that's going to allow someone that is in Ghana trying to raise funds to be able to make sure you can access funds either in Ghana or even in Nigeria, depending on the kind of product that is trying to finance. So we should, as much as possible, have a lot of contact with our regulators in the capital market, have the right advisors, and support the policymakers, especially what John Bosco is doing with his team, the PAPs, which is a very, very critical infrastructure that's been built across the continent, the PAPs. So if we understand what it's all about, it's going to allow us to be able to trade more across and amongst ourselves on the continent as against what we currently have, which is not ideal.
Now, we know digital technology can help to mitigate a lot of risk, and a lot of people actually have mentioned technology. In fact, the whole of the vertical hackathon, we mentioned a lot of things around technology, but not I'm not too sure a lot of people are speaking to how technology can help the decision-making process. So SIKEMI, can you just help to provide insight into how do you think you can use digital, technology to help mitigate this risk, but from the informed decision perspective?
From my experience, it's not enough to have data. The question is, what is the data going to do for you? Again, a lot of us are familiar with this, maybe even experienced it. You start your data, projects, you gather a lot of data, and then you have this massive warehouse of data. And then what? What are you going to do with it? How are you going to translate it into such a way that the data only means one thing? For example, I had an experience recently, and I contacted the customer care center, and the agent told me, "Thank you, ma'am, for contacting us. Please expect a response shortly." Now, what does shortly mean? Does it mean 5 minutes? Does it mean an hour? Does it mean the next day? And that's the way we need to look at data. So it's not enough to just say we need to provide data for transparency. No. We then need to ensure that the data is so unambiguous that it only means one thing at every point in time. So as an operational excellence person, it's not just enough to say technology. You also have to look at the process. You need to look at how the data is being generated. You also need to look at the people that are going to consume the data. If they don't understand how to consume the data is as good as useless. So my feedback or my take is that if you want to de-risk cross-border transaction by making data available and transparent, it's not just availability. You need to look at the process, you need to look at the people, and you need to look at the ability of the people to use the data to make sound decisions.